Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we're going to play a game I found on itch.io, it's called 1895, made by two people for the 17-hour Murder Boy Mayhem Jam 2024. It has mentions of death, murder, other things, jump scares. Loud volume might be triggered by some players, and warning can trigger you. Please take a break, and thank you. What your name is? Don't wave. Please select your pronouns. Miss. November 13th, 1895, London, 8:47 a.m. You were awakened by a feeling of sunlight, the feeling of sunlight against your eyelids, the sound of birds chirping in out the window, and slowly bring you to your senses. Like there's sunlight in London? Is it always overcast? I'm just joking. Your body was just wishing to close your eyes again and go back to sleep, but you had to get up. The past few days have been stressful and scary around you. A lot of deaths happened around the town as of late. Recently, you found your own beloved cat dead on a sidewalk on your way to work at the press. Most people brushed it aside as just a normal thing. Maybe means old Miss Widow's dog got to it. You know how mean that old thing can be. Your friend told you. It didn't die naturally, and you know that well alone. She had always been an inside cat. So how did she get outside in the first place? With the news of the new serial killer going around town, and even the newspapers, you made a trip down to the sheriff's office, explaining what you thought, that maybe your cat was a threat, and you were next on the serial killer's list. Is it Jack the Ripper? Because we're in London. Is that I know the name, but not on top of my head. Like is it a section of London? Let's get Sherlock on it. They brushed your concern off. Well, Sherlock brushed it off too. Like it's your cat. Probably got out. They brushed your concern off, brushing aside as a regular paranoid person, and sent you home after explaining how they were real people dying out there. You sighed and rolled out of bed, getting dressed in some normal housewear. It wasn't like many people were going out these days with those deaths going around, and you didn't work today, luckily. You walked to the living room where the gramophone was set against the wall before crouching down and grabbing a record from under the cabinet before placing it down on it. The sound of jazz slowly fills the room. My brain hurts. It's like gramophone. Oh, it's the thing before record players. The soft sound of music slowly calms you down. The silence before has been eerie and unsaying, almost like you could hear everything in the house. But wasn't jazz in the 19 20s? Or is it a different kind of jazz? People can call you paranoid or crazy or all they want, but you're playing it safe. Walking over the window, you pull the lace curtains shut and let the darkness envelop your room. It didn't block out all the sunlight, but at least it kept people from looking in. Maybe some tea would calm your mind. You still had those books from the library you've been meaning to finish, but haven't had the time for. How can you read with the small That does not sound from 1985. 1985. You went upstairs to the kitchen and started prepping some tea when you were interrupted by a sound of a knock on the door. I'm not getting it. Hello, Miss Digital Wave, are you home? You heard a masculine sounding voice calling out. It had a smooth and gentle voice as they spoke. You weren't expecting any visitors. Bloody hell. You weren't expecting any visitors. Bloody hell. Your family hardly came by as of late. You assumed because of everything that happened around the town. You hesitantly walked over to the front door before being cautious and taking quiet steps. What if it was that serial killer waiting for you to open the door and stab you in the heart the moment you saw them? Would the police care? Would anyone come looking for you? I'll just go face up. Hey, wait, no, the slashers don't exist yet. Grab knife, stab first. You force those thoughts out of your mind with a shaky, deep breath before grasping the door handle and opening it. Standing there was a man who looked to be in his 20s. His hair dark brown and had a trench coat and gloves on. He had a notepad and a pen in hand as he smiled softly and looked down at you. Hello, Miss Digital Wave. I'm Detective Castiel. I was gonna say Castiel. His name's now Castiel. Castiel. I heard you came down to the station with a few concerns, so I came down here to check it out. Really? You did? Are you a detective? Are you really a detective? He gave him a slight confused look, but he felt a bit of hope at the same time. He could be the killer. Oh yes, but the sheriff said there was bigger concerns, so they weren't bothering with my case. So why did you come? So why did they change their minds? Oh well, you see, I was in the back of the station when I heard you speak to the sheriff. My deranged thing about my cat dying. I knew he pushed you aside and called you paranoid, but something about you and your cat sparked my interest, and I wanted to help you out, but I know it must be hard to lose a pet. I would have just gone to Sherlock because I can help solve the murder. You nodded your head slightly in agreement to his words as you stared at him for a bit. He was taller than you, so you had to look down. He had to look down at you and seemed quite sophisticated. You never seen him around town, but there was always a chance he would just moved in, perhaps. When he noticed your staring, he smiled softly in response. He didn't seem like a threat. Maybe he was just here to talk. Just light him in. What's the worst that could happen? Oh, do you want to come inside? Cashel smiled at your words and nodded his head. If you don't mind, it'll be my pleasure, dear. He moved to the side and held the door open for him to come inside, and he did so. He watched closely as he walked inside the house, his feet light and graceful as he walked. You noticed how he seemed to know his way around without asking, but brushed it off. Red flags! Casual glanced over as the counter for a few moments before softly humming. A smile grew a little bit. You walk into the kitchen and start making tea. 2 cups this time for the detective as he sat down in the living room. You walk a while, but Cassio doesn't seem to complain. When you finally came out in the kitchen area and handed him a cup of tea before saying across from him, Thank you very much for the tea, my dear. It's greatly appreciated. Now, I'm sure you got the morals about all this, but I'm sure to try and not take too much of your time. You nod your head and follow your hands on your lap, listening to him speak. Now, can you tell me more on why you came to the station? What events conspired that day? You took a deep breath as you recalled the morning. Well, I got up and made my morning tea, as everyone does, I'm sure. I work at the newspaper, so I got dressed and ready. I had everything with me and started to leave after locking everything up. I not even noticed Clementine wasn't there. But when I left the house and started walking, I saw the poor thing laying dead on the sidewalk right in front of my house. You shifted at your seat, trying to get comfortable as he hummed softly, staring intently at you as if hanging on every word you said. He stayed quiet for a few moments, making sure you were done speaking for now, and nodded. He said it wasn't by natural causes. You nod your head. I'm sure of it. Everyone says it was Miss Willow's dog, but that's pure balderdash. He gave you a sympathetic smile and nodded his head before turning away and writing a few things on his notebook before looking back at you. Understand, dear, and trust. I will get to the bottom of this. Do you feel safe? I couldn't help but notice how hesitant you seem in opening the door for me. You thought about it for a moment. It really felt like everything was out to get you. As of late, everything and everyone was out to hurt you. You were about to respond when Cassio interrupted you. I could stay here with you for a bit. Make sure that nasty serial killer doesn't get to you next. I'll give you space. Just stick around. Does that sound alright, darling? Yandere. Oh yes, let's let the Yandere stay. That sounds right. If it won't be a burden to you, detective, I can only imagine how busy it is with cases and everything going on around here. It really is no problem, darling. After all, if anything were to happen to you, then we would have even more on our plate, along with losing the most beautiful, handsome person in town. A faint blush crept into her cheeks from the compliment. Not many people in town seemed to like you for whatever judgy reason they had. You always kept your head up and focused on your life, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt any less. And thank you so much, Detective Cassio. Just call me Cassio, love. You nod your head a little in agreement as you watched him push his glasses up a bit. It wasn't common to see anyone with such eyes before, and you couldn't help but stare. I'm gonna say, the way he says love, I don't think it's gonna be the British way because he's already saying darling. Which is more of an American term, if I'm technically correct. I know people do call me that. And it's more of a term of endearment to people that I've known for ever. The green and blue irises almost seemed to glow. They were beautiful in your opinion, but you knew some people saw things such as that as curses. Castle stared back at you when he noticed you're staring, and he smiled a bit wider. Oh, you like my eyes, love? I could say the same thing for you as well. You gave him a smile with a soft giggle. God, for yourself always being so gloomy, you're such a giggle bub right now. I've never seen you around. Did you just move in or have any family? I guess you could say that I'm not from around here. My grandparents live a bit down the street. Oh, really? I'll visit them and thank them for raising such a gentleman. Cashel chuckled a bit at your words, his eyes closing for a little. Oh, you're just splendid, my Rose. Speaking of family, where's Rosemary? Your face fell into confusion at his words, and look around. Nobody else was here, and he never mentioned anyone else coming to help. Who's that? Our daughter in the future. So, sir, if we have a daughter in the future, and she's not here, and this is the first time we're actually meeting, she doesn't exist yet. Just saying. That's how logical it would be. He smiled, like it was the most normal thing to say in the world. You stared at him for a little bit, trying to figure out if he might just been pulling your leg. What? You remember how I told you I'm not from around here? That's why. I'm a time traveler, my Rose. Might as well just say it out loud, since I'm already made that mix-up, huh? You stare at him in shock, not believing, but he also seemed so intelligent. You had to question. Why are you here then? I think it's better if I don't explain that right now. We have such a pleasant conversation, so after all, you're out of your... Wow, shaky sigh, and looked down at the floor. The room spun for a moment before you suddenly were hit with a wave of tiredness. Looking back up, you saw Cashel now standing close to you, his golden pocket watch in his hand as he looked around, making sure he was in the right time. He saw how tired you were suddenly and helped you up, gently holding onto your upper arm as he walked you to your bedroom. Shh, everything is okay. You just like you need to lay down. Your legs felt like jelly underneath you, but he soon switched over to carrying you bridal style as he gently laid you down on the bed once you reached your bedroom. You could barely keep your eyes open as he gently stroked your hair before gently placing his hand over your eyes as you drift off. You could barely make out the sound of a pocket watch going backwards as he mumbled something. November 13th, 1895. London, 8:47 a.m. You were awakened by the feeling of the sunlight against your eyelids, the sound of birds chirping outside the window, bringing you to your senses. Your body was just wishing to close your eyes again and back to sleep, but you had to get up. The past few days have been stressful and scary around you. A lot of deaths happening around the town as of late. Recently, you found your own beloved cat dead in a sidewalk and away to the press. Just doing Groundhog Day. Most people brushed it off as a sign of a normal thing. Maybe. Old Miss Will's dog got to it. You know how mean that thing is. Your friend had told you. It didn't die naturally, and you know that. Let alone, she always been inside. Cat, so how did she go outside in the first place? Outside in the first place? With the news of the new serial killer going around town, everything in the newspaper, you made a trip down to the sheriff's office, explaining how you thought, and maybe your cat was a threat to the next, and you were the next on the serial killer's list. Brush your concerns off, and you brushed your side as a regular paranoid person, and sent you home after explaining how there were real people dying out there. You saw in your rolled out bed, getting dressed, and for some normal houseware, it wasn't like many people were going out there these days. Those deaths going around, and you find your didn't work work today's luckily. Back in the living room, where the gramophone is set against the wall before crouching down and grabbing the record from underneath the cabinet, placing it down on it, and the sound of jazz slowly fills the room. The soft sound of music slowly calms you down in silence before you hear in that saying, almost like you could hear everything in the house. People could call you paranoid or crazy all they want, but you're playing it safe. Knocking over the window, you pull out the lights curtains, shut, and let the darkness envelop your room. It doesn't block out the sunlight, but at least it keeps people from looking in. Maybe some tea would help you calm your mind. You still have those books from the library you've been meaning to finish. They haven't had time for. You go up downstairs in the kitchen, and then, his knock. I'm just gonna go and not read it. Oh, you again. Okay. Get him a strafe look. Yes. Yeah, this is deja vu. Wait. Do you mind if I come in? Yes, come in. Watch closely as he walks inside the house. His feet light and graceful. As he watched, you notice how he seemed to know this way around. He glanced over the counter a few moments before softly humming and smiling. It grew a bit. Okay, we're gonna have to go and say no. What would happen if we say no? No. Oh, I don't... Well, no, I don't think about... I could stay here with you for a bit. Make sure there no nasty or... I just like that. I could stay here for a bit and make sure no nasty cowards doesn't get in your way next. I'll give you space to just stick around. Does that sound alright, darling? No. No. How does that sound, darling? Come on, dear, darling. I won't hurt you. Rose, why are you being like this? Shh, don't speak. He fell silent as his words, shrinking back in his sofa as he continued to speak, his gentle tone never once leaving. Do you know how much work I've done to get here? How many times I've been here? And irritation came through his voice, and he took a deep breath and smiled at you. It's all for you, it truly is. I come back here almost monthly now, make sure everything is perfect. I'm sure you'll put it together by now, but you're a smart one. Groundhog Day. You smiled, and you stood up. Castle smiled and stood up, reaching into his chest pocket and pulling out a golden pocket watch, rubbing it in his hands. His thumb. Sometimes I come here to relive our first meeting. At times, change the future. At times, a lot of things have changed since my very first visit. What are you talking about? Castle looks at you, humming softly, and tilts his head a little to the side as he studied you for a few moments. I'm not from here, my Rose. I guess you could say I'm from the future, but at the same time, I'm not. I traveled all the way around time, that sometimes I get my origins. Are you the Delta? Are you Yandere version of the Delta? Am I giving people ideas? He sighed softly and takes a sip of the tea and graciously gave him. The first time I ever time traveled was for my own selfish desires. You got married to a wrong person. They treated you horribly. You poor thing. I had to watch as you fell into the arms of another, and your petals wilted. I couldn't let fate go like that. I had to change it. I went back in time, got rid of him, and he fell right into my arms perfectly. So I'm going to take a guess and say every person that died in a serial killer reign of terror have been the people I was going to get together with. You were about to open your mouth and say something, but he interrupted you, almost like he already knew that you were going to say. How I got this ability is none of your concern, my Rose. But this time was for something else. You see, in the future, you and I are married, but you're still carrying the burdens of your past. I don't want that for you. I only want to see you happy, my Rose. You told me this town always treated you horribly. I took care of all of them. Everyone who ever looked at you with disgust, and then all I had to do was meet you again in this timeline. You got rid of my cat, too. Okay. This timeline, I'm going to kick your butt. But of course, Castle gave a soft chuckle. The sound gentle, but now eerie, unlike all the other times you heard it. Things can't be that easy sometimes. It seems like my actions made you too paranoid, so I just have to do a redo. Wait, none of what you said made sense. Castle looked down at his pocket watch, adjusting something on the time. As the hands on the small hand clock went backwards. I'm well aware of that, dear. But don't worry. Soon you won't remember any of this after I change the past. I love you, my Rose. November 13th, 1895, London, 8:47 a.m. And that was 1895. If you like my content, please subscribe, like the bell. It'll help a lot. And comment down below. I believe there's only 2 endings, and we got them both. And we still did a time loop after. So yeah, we're in a time loop. We're basically in Groundhog Day.